Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about committing, contributing, taking part of building WordPress, even if you're not a developer or a designer. In the recent video that I did about WordPress 6.6, I mentioned that I became a core contributor by a feature that I recommended for WordPress to include, and I'll show that to you right now. If you're ever building in the site editor and you're trying to get to your template parts, which generally are your header and your footer areas of the website, they're not in templates, so you're scratching your head saying, well, why are they not in templates? They're actually tucked away in the patterns section all the way down to the bottom. Move my face over here, and you can see them right here, all template parts inside of the pattern. So I said, well, we have this command palette, and prior to WordPress 6.6, you couldn't get to those template parts by searching template parts like I did right here. I suggested that we add that to the command palette so that anyone can quickly type in the command palette to get to this screen, so it wasn't such a convoluted route to get to template parts. So as a non-developer, somebody who doesn't write code and certainly doesn't write code for WordPress, what is one to do? Well, in this case, because it's Gutenberg, it's a part of Gutenberg, and that whole project is hosted on GitHub, I was able to use my GitHub account and open up what's known as an issue to present this idea. Now, the idea was titled Command Palette Add Template Parts Command number 60443 is the number that this was. Maybe I'll get a tattoo of that because it was included in WordPress. So I simply created this issue, and the issue template starts with what's the problem? What problem does this address? And I explained it just like I explained it to you when I'm working with this stuff. I need to quickly get to it. What is your proposed solution? Well, the proposed solution is to pull up the command palette, search template parts, and have access to that command. Now, you'll see as you scroll down, folks have thumbs up. Some folks have commented, like Mark Szymanski. Andrew put in, I believe, as of number 52817, which is another issue number, it looks like template parts command was removed and consolidated into patterns. And if you use the command patterns, that'll take you to patterns. And my sort of retort to that was, well, that's great. It brings you to patterns. But if I'm building a site really quickly and I'm doing something in a template, I really need to get to template parts. Like, I don't want to have a hop to go to patterns and then into template parts. If I'm building out a specific template and I know I need to address something, I want to quickly get to it through the command palette. So there was a bit of discourse, and then it was moved into action. So from there, Brian Cords said, yes, I +1 this idea. And he actually started to build it. And you can see that he merged his pull request right here, this little merge tag. So we click into that. And this is where the magic happens. So he actually wrote the code to begin to do it. He too has to make this proposal, this proposition to say, what is it that I'm adding to the code? So he's freelance developer. I'm just a guy with an idea. I put the idea out. He says, yes, I will help you do that. He writes the code and then presents it to the team, with air quotes, with the what, the why, the how, and the testing instructions. And you can go through this particular issue and see the evolution of the code being developed and some back and forth with other developers on the Gutenberg project who have looked at his code and said, yes, number one, we feel like this is a feature that is needed. It's not a lot of moving parts. It's not something that changes like the core direction of like where Gutenberg is headed, and it makes sense. So they reviewed his code, they reviewed the idea behind it, and they said, yes, I think this is something that we can do. And by the way, yeah, that code looks good to us. There were some modifications you can go through. I'm not a developer. Brian and a few others go through to talk about Brian's code. Eventually, everything gets cleaned up, looks good, and it all gets merged into 6.6 or Gutenberg 18.4, and then eventually merged into 6.6. But GitHub sort of serves as the anatomy of how all of this stuff gets developed, from this tiny little concept of adding a command into the command palette from a non-developer, and then seeing a team of folks, come together, work on that idea, and deploy it into WordPress 6.6, and it'll be there until it gets changed. I like to say it will be there forever, but probably it'll get modified in the future. But it was a small contribution, and myself, Brian, and Mark, who actually also chimed in on the ticket in support of this, all became core. Well, I think maybe Brian was a core contributor already, but we all got our little core contributor awards in the WordPress.org user profile accounts. And that's just one insight into how you can contribute to the project. And that GitHub isn't a scary place. Yes, it's super technical looking. There's a lot of text. There's a lot of things happening, largely for the developer crowd. But when you go into creating an issue for Gutenberg, for example, if we click on new issue, what are we doing here? Are we filing a bug? Are we doing a feature request? And I just simply created a feature request. And when you click on that, it's no different than making a forum post or blog post. You can come in and put in exactly what you're looking for, and in much more detail than even I put into my original ticket. If you have some great features, spend that time really clearly thinking about who this is for, how folks might get impacted, both maybe negatively and positively with your idea. Illustrations, images, video, as much as you can do to really prop up your position on this feature request that you're putting in. And then I would also say that just because it's in there doesn't mean it's also just going to get naturally developed. When you look at my little feature request, for example, Brian, a friend of mine, he's a developer, so he knows how to pick that up, run with it, and do it. And it probably didn't take him a whole heck of a lot of time. Depending on what you're looking for, it could be a very big task, and it might need more eyeballs on this. And for lack of a better phrase, it might need some more cheerleading around it. If you have a great feature idea and you want to get support for it, just like maybe anything else in life, you have to knock on some doors and say, hey, I've got this feature request that's already put in to, let's say, Gutenberg in this case. You have to find other people to sort of back you. So maybe you do make a feature request, and maybe you also have to go and make a blog post or social media posts or a podcast or a video explaining what it is that you're looking to accomplish, and really rally up some community support. And whether that's maybe other non-developers to just spread the word, or maybe eventually a developer sees it who's not part of the core team or core contribution team, who says, you know what, that's something I think I can tackle. I like that idea too. I will help you develop that. And then that person comes in, writes the code just like Brian does, and then the core contributors look at it and say, all right, this is something that passes the test. Technically, it's good code. It's not doing anything that's going to break WordPress, and we think this is a reasonable feature to include here. Spend some time going through this list and seeing what you can either upvote or add real value to. Remember, you have to put as much effort in as you're hoping to receive at the same time. So just going through and plussing things, it helps. But if you can also share more of your perspective, of your thoughts, and you can articulate it really well, this is the place to do it, at least on the Gutenberg side. WordPress core, a whole different beast. That would be on track. But focusing on Gutenberg and blocks and stuff like this GitHub repo for Gutenberg is a fantastic place to start. When we zoom out and look at the Gutenberg repo on GitHub, I've talked about this on a live stream recently, you can see all of the contributors that have contributed. Over 1,100 folks from around the world have contributed to Gutenberg, and you can go in and see who they are, where they're from, who sponsors them. Largely, out of the top 10, 8 are from Automatic, and I'm sure if we go up to the top 30, most of them are going to be from Automatic, but you can give kudos to folks who are maybe not working at Automatic and who are doing it just as a freelance thing, just because they really like to help improve WordPress or Gutenberg, and they have some great ideas. But spend some time diving into GitHub. Even as a non-developer, you'll get a lot of insights here. You can see the interaction. And when we say, why did they do this with this plugin or that block, or why did they add grids? Spending time here and going through those issues and those conversations that are happening, at least in the GitHub repo, is a great starting point to understand why these decisions are being made and who's behind it and what's the methodology for achieving whichever outcome happened with a feature or a function of Gutenberg. That's the video today. Thumbs up if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you want more. Are you using the template parts command palette? Or using the command palette? I use it a lot when I'm inside the site editor. Helps me jump around. That's why I recommended that feature. Let me know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.